Okay, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. My name is George. I'm a solution architect for Meraki, and just want to welcome you to the Meraki Quarterly here, coming up on the end of Cisco fiscal in the summer or winter, I guess, depending on where you're located. But thank you for taking the time out of your day today to learn a little bit more about what Meraki is up to, what we've been developing, and to give you, I want to give you a little bit of foresight into kind of what we're thinking for the next few months, and I know times are a little bit difficult right now, so hopefully you'll learn something that will help you go out of this kind of pandemic in a way that helps you be a better technologist, and do that with Meraki. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. For those of you who have not attended Meraki Quarterly before, we are in a bit of a unique situation here where we're in APJC. So it's going to be presented by two of us today, myself and then Parag. I'll let him introduce himself once we get to his section here, and he'll talk a little bit more about his experience with Meraki. But we're going to be presenting a lot of new material. We're going to be talking to both customers and partners on the line here about what we've been doing and where we're going. One thing I do want to make note of, and this should be familiar if you've attended a Meraki Quarterly before, but this is a roadmap-free zone. So while we will allude to some things, questions around what's coming up and long-term projects are not really the focus of this webinar. We really just want to give an update on what's been going on. So speaking of questions, I want to make sure that from a housekeeping perspective, everyone make sure that if you do have questions, we have a team of people that are prepared and excited to answer those questions, but we ask that you please use the Q&A tool, so the question and answer tool in the WebEx events application, as opposed to using the chat. That's basically the way that everyone on the panel side is going to be able to get your questions. If you ask them in the chat, they're not necessarily going to be answered. So please, that's the one piece of housekeeping, use the Q&A tool. So with that, we'll go ahead and kind of get started. Again, a few other housekeeping things. Yes, this is being recorded. You're not eligible for free equipment for attending this webinar. And again, just to reiterate, use the Q&A tool in WebEx. That's where our experts will be able to answer your questions. So I think we'll kick it off by talking about the security and SD-WAN portfolio. I think right now this is an especially relevant technology, as we have a lot of people working from home with their home internet connections. They may be working with a Meraki appliance or not, but if they are, this is especially relevant for remote workers. So we'll talk a little bit more about the remote work solution later, but let's give an update on what has happened on the security and SD-WAN side of things. So if you're not already aware of Meraki's auto VPN technology, this is something that we've been perfecting for years, over a decade, in fact. It's actually one of the differentiating factors of the MX that has allowed us to see the incredible growth in our kind of WAN customer base. Auto VPN is kind of the foundation behind SD-WAN. So it leverages the power of the cloud to allow for multi-site connectivity in literally just 2 to 3 clicks to actually enable a full IPsec tunnel site-to-site VPN, whether that's a branch office to the data center, or someone, again, working from home back to those critical services that are hosted at HQ or at the data center. This is actually something that we use internally on the Meraki team. We have a number of people who are working remotely, and they're using either an MX or a Z3. teleworker appliance to connect back to back to our respective HQs around the globe. And so it's tried and tested, over years. That's what's enabled us to really be the leader in SD-WAN, having the most SD-WAN customers around the globe. And we continue to see that scale increase, especially now that people are working more remotely. So in terms of, kind of getting everyone together and, pushing our products to the next level, I mentioned, site-to-site VPN connectivity, but we also are able to do client VPN as well. We've seen an incredible surge in client VPN. Many of our customers are now employing things like Systems Manager, which you'll learn more about later in the hour, to actually automatically provision devices for client VPN as well. And the visibility that you get with client VPN in the dashboard is really, really helpful for our IT administrators that are now trying to manage a quite decentralized workforce. And so that kind of increase has caused a lot of pressure on our infrastructure. And so we've really worked hard to provide better documentation and also a better sizing plan on how you can actually make sure that your employees that are working in the field that may not have a teleworker appliance that are relying on client VPN can still connect back to all the essential services that they need to connect back to, and that the IT admins are still able to monitor that as well. Big announcement here. If you haven't heard about this already, you probably have heard about this on wireless, but maybe not for the MX appliance. So we now have native integration with Cisco Umbrella technology on the MX. This is something that is in public beta. So if you're interested in enabling all of the capabilities of Umbrella on your MX or on your Z3 that might be deployed at your teleworker locations, we can now support that natively with one single license on the MX. And we're really excited about this because it's going to change the game in terms of simplicity. Previously, we had some API integrations between the Meraki Dashboard and Umbrella, but now it's all natively integrated with, and will be natively integrated with one single license. And so that's something that if you're interested, you can contact your support engineer at Meraki to enable that on the devices that you may already have deployed. Moving on, when we talk about MX, I think we're remiss if we don't talk about Meraki Insight. It's one of the key software products that makes MX differentiated in the industry. So Meraki Insight is a web application monitoring software program that runs on the MX box. So this means that if you want to get insight into how your AWS is performing, or if you're using Salesforce or Office 365, or any cloud application, Google Drive, etc., with Meraki Insight, you're actually able to get a lot of visibility into how those applications are performing. One of the things that's been released recently as an addition to Meraki Insight is VoIP health. So now more than ever, it's crucial to be able to understand how WebEx is performing, how your other VoIP cloud providers are performing. And so we've actually released VoIP health. So if you're familiar with Meraki Insight, you've probably seen the ISP health. This is similar to that in a UX experience, but it actually allows you to see all of the different calling servers that you may be reaching out to on a general basis, and how those are performing, to make sure that if it's a problem with your VoIP provider or if it's a problem with your ISP. And so VoIP health really seeks to simplify the troubleshooting process if you're having issues with internet calling. Of course, the high-level view is fantastic, but it's always important to be able to get those detailed analytics and be able to understand really where the issue lies. So with VoIP Health, we're able to actually see parameters like the MOS score, which is an overall industry accepted metric for the quality of connectivity. We're able to see packet loss and latency, which are two of the most important things for VoIP to behave properly, and then jitter as well. So we hope that VoIP Health will provide our customers with a better kind of troubleshooting tool and level of visibility to diagnose and then resolve issues that they might be having with their voice calling. It's all live as well, so you're able to actually do real-time analysis. So let's say you see a particular server that's not behaving properly. With VoIP Health and these live diagnostic tools, you can actually run a real-time analysis where the MX will send out a number of different packets over the internet to identify if this is an issue with, again, something out there on the internet or something with the VoIP server or even a problem with your ISP. So this is something that you can run in real time. And this is something that Meraki in general is trying to do across all of our platforms. Being able to run live tools, you're probably familiar if you've used Meraki before with the ability to, ping servers and be able to run a hop by hop test, even do things like packet captures. What this does is bring all those tools together into one very easy to understand user interface, specifically for VoIP that's operating in the cloud. And so if you haven't seen this already in your dashboard, I would encourage you to give an MI trial on top of your MXs to check out what you can see. And if you're having problems, that might help solve them, or it might even identify problems that you're not aware that you're having. And so that's really what we're trying to do. We're within these new tools. We're trying to provide the ability for you to really understand what the problem is and how to resolve it. So I've talked already a little bit about kind of some of the options that are available for our customers when it comes to remote work. At a very high level, we have a number of solutions. All of them are brought together by the Meraki Dashboard and the capabilities that we have with Auto VPN. So when you're thinking about how to enable your employees to work from wherever, essentially, whether that's in the current environment or in the future, we have a number of solutions. So, the first is the basic teleworker solution, very affordable, Z3 device where the user can just plug it in at home. They've got connectivity from their, corporate SSID, but they're also able to support, their kids accessing, let's say, YouTube or whatever they might be doing, or even some of the e-learning that might be happening at home. But the Z3 and the MX as well allows you to segment that traffic with a secure zero-touch VPN connection back to your different concentrators, whether they're an MX at the data center or even a virtual MX that's in one of our cloud partners, such as Microsoft or Amazon. Something that people might not know as much about are our MR and systems manager solutions. So if you're not aware, the MR, if you have an access point, you're actually able to tunnel that traffic back to a concentrator, just like you would with another, traditional kind of VPN device. But the MR is an option that, is great for our customers. Especially, we actually have a great example in education where one of our customers was looking to do a kind of an e-learning approach and also do a Wi-Fi refresh at the same time. And they were actually able to do a Wi-Fi refresh by deploying new access points to all of their students that are working from home. And after everyone is going back to school, they're going to then reclaim those access points and basically do a Wi-Fi refresh for Wi-Fi 6. Of course, the individuals who are using that Meraki fantastic Wi-Fi at home still have the option to buy that as their home access, but they're going to reclaim most of those and deploy it as a refresh for the school once everyone goes back into campus. And then on Systems Manager, as I mentioned before, the ability to deploy VPN profiles automatically to either student-owned devices or school-owned devices without the parents having to go in and read a million documentation articles on something that they're not necessarily familiar with configuring on their student's laptop or iPad or whatever it might be, Android tablet. They're able to actually automatically push those profiles so that it's very seamless for those students to connect back to all of the kind of school resources that might only be accessible back at campus or accessible via that campus data center connecting back to the cloud. An individual student might not be able to connect back to the cloud from home. There may be restrictions put on by the cloud provider as to how many IP addresses can contact that particular server and so on and so forth. So moving on again, to the kind of connectivity side of things, hopefully everyone's aware of the MG, which is our cellular gateway. This has been something that's been an incredibly successful product, especially for places that have either really expensive hardwired connections or potentially don't have any hardwired connection at all. If you look at more remote locations, it sometimes is really hard to do that last mile of connectivity, whereas cell towers in the region can potentially provide that connectivity. In many cases, with LTE, as LTE is advancing, can even provide faster speeds than a standard broadband connection might be able to. In addition to that, the MG also allows for true SD-WAN over wireless. So if you've got a hardwired connection at a branch location and you want to augment that and do full SD-WAN over wireless, whether it's a hybrid, as I said, between broadband and the LTE or 4G, or even dual 4G with multiple providers, the MX is able to connect very simply back to the MG and provide that true SD-WAN solution. Now, of course, if you don't have MXs deployed, the MG is still an acceptable solution. It works completely with any other router. Essentially, it's just a wireless gateway. It's got external antennas that you can aim at a cell tower, and then just through a standard Ethernet connection back to whatever router you have, it's just treated as a normal internet connection. With the MG, we also have a lot of visibility. Keep in mind, it's not just a dumb device. It's also connected back to the Meraki dashboard, and so you're able to monitor that cellular connection. You're able to see, the actual signal strength that you're getting, so you can adjust those antennas to optimize. You're able to see, throughput, and so it really allows you to monitor your signal quality. So if you're moving to a cellular connection, this should basically give you peace of mind that that it's actually going to be reliable. You know how to monitor it. You know how to troubleshoot it, just like you would with any other Meraki device. So on the API side, and we'll talk more about API as it pertains to the entire product line, but one of the great things about the MG being a relatively new product is that it was released with 100% API management. So I actually worked on a team a couple of years ago with Meraki where we were building out, kind of the API construct and this idea of having API be an option for customers or partners to manage their customers with programmability. And so we've seen a lot of growth in that regard. And one of the big things that we've seen is that every new product and every new feature now has full API capabilities. And that's something that's standardized across the entire portfolio. So you can expect to see, any new product that comes out, you can expect to see full API integration. And that certainly includes the MG as well. So you can kind of choose your own path, choose your own adventure. With Meraki now, of course, with our dashboard, we're still going to provide lots of visibility and new features, such as VoIP health, for example. But we also give you the option to do that on a programmatic side of things, or with a programmatic approach as well. So in terms of some of the new releases, we've seen again a huge growth. If you haven't already looked at using the API, I hate the term, but it is kind of true. The idea that API is the new CLI. If you want to interact with Meraki devices, we're continuing to innovate and also take in your feedback. So if you have feedback on the API, if you think there's an endpoint that's missing, or a function that's missing that you want to be able to do, check out the Meraki.io or developer.cisco.com/Meraki to learn more about kind of what we're doing in the API space. In the API space, we're really moving quickly and wanting to make sure that we have feature parity between what's available in Dashboard and available via API. So how does this actually work, and what are some examples? Of course, this allows you to just have software talk to software. And so, whether you are running a help desk where you need to integrate with something like Zendesk or PagerDuty, or if you're wanting to automatically generate cases in ServiceNow or generate tickets in Zenos, for example, we're able to do that. I want to highlight the WebEx integration here. One of the things that WebEx has done from the beginning when they released Teams, used to be Spark, now as WebEx Teams, is full API integration on their side as well. So you're now able to leverage the Meraki alerting via API for a direct integration with WebEx Teams. So what that means is that you're no longer having to process all of these email alerts and deal with all of that kind of bulkiness of filtering through emails or creating a specific email address that receives these alerts. You're able to actually programmatically digest these alerts and do things like alerts directly to WebEx Teams. So if you have a service group that's monitoring a WebEx Teams space, you're able to actually get those raw alerts, or you can put it through a system that actually shows in kind of more human text what the issue is and how that could potentially be resolved. And so that's just one of the ways that Meraki is working with WebEx. We're also, of course, with VoIP Health, able to monitor and kind of manage those connections back to WebEx servers. And so Meraki and WebEx have been kind of a leader in the Cisco team on how we integrate together and allow for our services to kind of complement each other. Now, I do want to highlight, if you are a developer out there, or if you've got a DevOps team and you're interested in participating in, providing feedback and suggestions on what we should be building, we do have access to our Meraki developers community, our early access Meraki developers community. That's something, again, at developer.cisco.com/Meraki you can apply for, and you can get in there and really see and participate in the product roadmap for API, because we truly do consider the API as sort of a product that overarches as an umbrella for all of the different products that Meraki has to offer. So if you want to hear more, one thing that we really are trying to do is broadcast our messaging in a way that's fun to consume and easy to understand. And so if you haven't heard about Meraki Unboxed before, it's hosted by one of our product marketing managers, Simon Thompson, available on any kind of podcast platform that you use. But we do have some specific episodes around API. So one is with Armis, which is a technology partner. If you're not aware of the Meraki Marketplace already, that's where we feature all of our technology partners that are innovating and are building on top of the Meraki API, and then selling software products from that. And then we also have one with Splash Access, which is a long-term friend to Meraki, building captive portal and analytics solutions. So if you haven't checked out Meraki Unboxed before, I'd encourage you to go look at it, listen to a couple episodes. It's pretty entertaining and definitely a good resource as well. We also have been focused on our connection with DevNet. So probably many of you are aware that DevNet has released some new certifications that are available for those people who are kind of trying to build out their developer side. You know, maybe you're historically have been a network engineer and you're trying to expand your programmability skills. We've worked really hard with that partnership with DevNet, and they have lots of webinars. They have lots of labs that are available with open sandbox of Meraki equipment that you can kind of play around without worrying about breaking your existing infrastructure. And so DevNet has been a great partner for us. So if you haven't checked out any of the DevNet resources, webinars, training labs, I would encourage you to go ahead and check those out for sure. I mentioned before, but we do now have not just the certifications live, but also training courses. So, you know, from a Meraki perspective, we now encourage almost all of our SEs, actually all of our SEs, to go in and get DevNet certified. It's not something that takes a ton of time, to be honest. It's you know, walking through a few fundamentals, doing a couple labs. All of that's available on the DevNet site. So whereas previously, if you were trying to get your CCNA or your CCNP or even your CCIE, you know, you're looking at a huge investment in gear. You're looking at a huge investment in books and time. From a programmability perspective, with DevNet, you can do that all online. It doesn't require any of your own infrastructure. You can learn the fundamentals of not just how to interact with the kind of Meraki infrastructure, but also with DNA Center and any of the APIs that Cisco has to offer. But there's also a lot of basics in Python, you know, basics in Ruby and stuff like that. So if you're scared, you need a platform to learn a little bit about how to do basic coding. DevNet's the answer, and we hope that everyone here on the call, if you're a technologist, that you'll work towards getting a DevNet certification. So I guess some kind of updates on, you know, the current situation, now moving to some of the kind of promotions and also I guess I'll say the leniency that we're providing in light of the current situation. You know, we are disabling licensing enforcement. You know, granted, we're kind of coming up on this date, but if you have licenses that are expiring, we're not going to suspend those licenses. So, you know, you're going to get additional grace period to basically go in and figure out and solve for the issues that you might be having on billing or whatever it might be. So we are cognizant of the fact that everyone's changing the way that they're working right now, and paying that licensing bill might not be the #1 priority. So we're working to basically cover for those potential gaps that you might have in terms of the payment cycle. We've got lots of documentation on this on the documentation.meraki.com. If you haven't used that site before, it's a great wealth of information around what's going on right now, and also just, you know, how the product works and just to learn more about Meraki in general. Really exciting new update as well. If you've been around or worked with Meraki for a while, you're probably aware that we do have a mobile app. Historically, it's been, you know, I'd give it like a C-. It wasn't really maintained, but we now have a complete team that's devoted to developing a new application for Android and iOS that allows you to monitor your networks and also make configuration changes. So rather than just having to load the Meraki dashboard on your mobile device, you're now able to go in and use a very mobile-friendly application to you know, make changes to SSID passwords, be able to get better visibility. It's a lot more pretty, to be honest, than the previous app. And it's just a really great user experience. So it's an open beta. If you're interested in checking it out, you can go in and if you just go to cs.co/Meraki_mobile _FAQ, you can learn more about that. And so it's available for everyone to try and test. And the team there is very open to feedback because it is currently in an open development cycle. But I've used it many times to monitor my own network at home. It's a great scalable application that you can use whether you have 1 or 2 networks or all the way up to monitoring hundreds of sites. It'll actually prioritize ones that you should be looking at. So it's a great approach to managing your network in a different way without using the traditional dashboard. So moving on to cameras here, we've worked a lot to increase the kind of functionality and also the capabilities of cameras in terms of doing better retention and also just being smarter about how we do analytics on the cameras as well. So we now have the ability to do profiles for cameras. So similar, if you're familiar with our access points, where you can do RF profiles, you can also segment cameras and then assign profiles based on is the camera in a space that's expected to be filled with people, or is it in a space that is not expected to have any people? You can then kind of define camera profiles and just increase your scale across your camera deployment to better manage the retention of the footage on those cameras. Another thing we've added here is external stream sharing as well. So this is a great new thing, especially now that everyone is kind of dealing with more remoteness. So we've seen a few applications, especially in kind of the healthcare space, where a family member wants to monitor their their loved one that is stuck in a hospital for whatever reason. You're able to generate kind of a one-time link that allows anyone to view that stream for a defined period of time without having to give them any dashboard access. So we think this is a really good way for right now in healthcare, but also going forward in in school environments where parents want to monitor their kids at school and check in on their kids. This is a great way to actually do that. So truly external kind of stream sharing for parents or for loved ones who are trying to monitor what's going on. But from a security perspective, the IT admin or the security, physical security person in charge doesn't want to give dashboard access to the full-time stream. With that, you're also able to see more logging. So we're now able to see who has access and who is viewing particular streams and where they're viewing that from, if they're exporting video. So again, from a security and just kind of a tracking perspective, you're in a logging perspective, you're able to now see that and export that as well. We also have gotten a little bit more sophisticated in terms of how we do motion-based retention. Previously, motion-based retention was only based on the entire frame that the camera could see. We're now able to do areas of interest. So if you have a, let's say a door, you're looking at an entire manufacturing floor, for example, but those machines are moving around all the time. You've got robots making things and stuff like that. But what you really care about is if someone actually walks through a door and enters the facility. You're able to actually select a specific area within that frame so that you can understand and only get retention on when people are moving about, as opposed to when machines are moving or the lighting changes or a piece of paper blows across the frame or something like that. And so this really just allows you to expand the retention time that you get on the physical storage that's built into every one of the Meraki MV cameras. Hopefully everyone's aware of this, but we now have the ability to do full frame exports via API. So with better resolution on some of the newer cameras, up to 4 megapixels, you can now go in and actually take that screenshot in real time. So the biggest application that we see for this is people using it to actually kind of go in and push that snapshot through something like AWS recognition that allows you to do real-time analysis on what's in the frame. So object detection, things like facial recognition, all of that is now possible through the Snapshot API, leveraging one of the kind of cognitive machine learning services out there like Amazon AWS recognition. In addition, on the camera side, we've also added a couple of new models. One of the biggest requests that we've gotten is for additional storage capacity and additional time for that storage. So we've 2 new models with the MV22X and 72X, now doubling the storage of the traditional MV22 and 72. So you get up to 90 days of 24/7 video, and it also supports better video quality as well. And so we think that this will answer the needs of a lot of our customers that for whatever compliance reasons they want to, compliance or just their own internal policies need to keep footage for a longer period of time. The 22 and 72X will help support those needs. You're probably aware of the MV32. One of the really cool things about the MV32 is just the ability to use software to de-warp the visibility. So the MV32 is a fisheye camera that allows you to see a full 360-degree view of a physical space. But what that means is that you no longer need a what traditionally is called a pan tilt zoom camera. So you're actually able to go in and use that and de-warp that 360-degree fisheye view into looking at many different places in the physical space, which also means that you can do that in real time. So if you deploy one camera in the middle of a room, as opposed to deploying, let's say, 4 cameras that are all facing one particular corner, then you can actually create a video wall with multiple streams from the same camera by de-warping that that one image, and then viewing it in a video wall that allows you to see the full space without having to look through a fisheye lens at the entire particular physical location. We've also just done a lot of general improvements to the video wall. We're tracking the layouts. We're able to look at better timestamp synchronization as well. So previously, things could get a little bit out of sync, but now when you're looking at a video wall, we actually look at the timestamp, and let's say one camera is you're looking at this video wall of a camera in Singapore, and you're looking at a camera in London, but maybe you're based in Sydney. There's going to be latency and stuff like that affects the ability to see real time. So we now use algorithms to actually adjust those timestamps to actually have the visibility in real time at all of your different sites. So there's probably a number of questions. Hopefully they've been being answered in the Q&A box there. But if there are any questions, any of our panelists, if you have a question that you want to kind of highlight, 1 or 2 questions that you might want to highlight, feel free to unmute yourself. So if anyone feels like they've gotten a really good question, I think the whole group here would love to hear some of the more interesting ones, and then I'll hand it over to Parag to talk a little bit more about some of the other technologies. So anyone have any good questions out there? All right, so if there are no questions, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and make Parag the presenter here. and go ahead and hand it over to him. Parag, if you want to just give a brief introduction and then take it away.
All right. Thanks, George. Thank you so much for giving a brief about our previous section. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Parag. I am the consulting system engineer based in India. And I'm going to talk about some exciting stuff that we've been doing for the past couple of months. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me know, George, once my screen is seen.
Yep, looks good from my side.
All right, thank you. Let me go ahead and present it. All right, so one of the exciting things that we have been doing is with Systems Manager. So for those of you who don't know what System Manager is, so it's a complete cloud-based MDM solution from the Meraki portfolio. And one of the exciting things that we were working on is with Cisco IT. Now, we know that Cisco IT is a very large organization, and their IT team is always busy with supporting their employees like us. And very recently, what they have done is they have started deploying Meraki Systems Manager across the organization for their BYOD requirement. And the end goal is to reach 60,000 different devices up and running with System Manager as a preferred choice of MDM. The real reason for choosing System Manager was to automate IT processes, report intelligently, and integrate with their existing infrastructure along with global scalability. That's the key things that they considered. And if you want to read more about it, we have created a very detailed blog on how they deployed it and why did they choose Systems Manager, and most importantly, how was the overall experience. So if you are thinking of about an MDM solution, please go ahead and read out the blog. And more importantly, you'll get to know what were the learnings and some of the best practices that you can use in your consideration of an MDM solution. So in addition to this, there's going to be a Cisco Live US. We're working on, we'll let you know if something is available for locally available in the APJC region. But the current dates are announced for Cisco Live US. And there's going to be a technical session on this deployment in detail. And it's going to be a virtual one, given the current circumstances that we are in. So please go ahead and log into Cisco Live website for more details about this session. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great insight as to what cool things the Cisco IT team has done when they have deployed the complete BYOD solutions for all Cisco teams through Meraki Systems Manager. All right, so moving on, another great feature, Meraki Trusted Access. Now, Meraki Trusted Access was launched in December last year. A big update is that Android is now available in beta. So if you have already used Systems Manager, you should now be able to see this on the Meraki dashboard. So just to recap on what Meraki Trusted Access is that it's a feature that securely allows personal devices such as BYOD devices to access business sensitive data or business critical applications without needing to install an MDM agent on that personal device. So what's in it for IT then? So for IT, Meraki Trusted Access means no longer dealing with complex and manual onboarding processes, and granting secure network access to end devices becomes much more seamless and automated as trusted access enables certificate-based onboarding. So this removes the need for any complex third-party integrations that would require to do this integration. And for the end users, the onboarding experience is going to be much more simplified as it provides them much more flexibility to not feel like have to install an MDM agent on their personal devices, and yet can provide secure access to business critical applications. So please do give it a try. One thing to note about Android devices is that Android devices, I would say software, works differently than Mac OS or iOS. So even though you don't need a Meraki Systems Manager agent on Android devices, you would still need a Meraki Trusted Access Android app, which is available on the Google Play Store. And guess what? There's also an option for a self-service portal which the end user can use to enroll their devices themselves. So this will help free the IT teams from the provisioning burden. And from the Windows devices perspective, we are presently working on it, and it will be coming up in the near future. So that's the update on the Meraki Trusted Access. And moving on, there another update that I want to give you is about Apple user enrollment, which is in beta. And for those of you who are interested in trying user enrollment integration with Meraki Systems Manager, can find more details about this on the Meraki community page under Systems Manager tab. So just to understand what this feature allows you to do is that it allows you to securely deliver business content to personal devices while providing end user protection of their privacy and data. So just to give you an example, like for those of you who are using iOS devices, you would be knowing that you typically use Apple ID for connecting to Apple Cloud, to use multiple services for personal use. So some of us would want to maintain the privacy of the Apple ID. So this feature addresses that by giving a managed Apple ID to contain your personal Apple ID, which is a great feature, and it provides more flexibility to the BYOD users. So with Apple user enrollment, Systems Manager cannot issue the commands, as you can see on the slide, such as factory erase, clear passcode, and more, as you can see on the slide. So if you're interested, please visit our community page for more details on this functionality. All right, moving on. Wireless. And so in the previous quarterly update, we had showcased IoT security as well as integration with Umbrella DNS. So this time we have got an exciting announcement. We have released a brand new set of Wi-Fi 6 access points. So these are MR36, 46, and 56. And if you must have noticed, all the APs are Wi-Fi 6 certified. This means that all the three APs have all Wi-Fi 6 capabilities such as OFDMA, multi-user MIMO on both uplink and downlink, and a key feature for battery saving, which is target wait time. So the MR36 will be the first 2x2 Wi-Fi 6 access point in the Cisco portfolio, offering an entry point to those wanting to upgrade to Wi-Fi 6. So if you're not familiar with Wi-Fi 6, just in general, this Wi-Fi standard allows up to 4 times the capacity of the previous generation 802.11ac access points. And some of the clients can experience up to 70% lower latency with Wi-Fi 6. So with upstream multi-user MIMO and OFDMA on all three models, which will help address wireless environments with high density and with large amount of uplink traffic, such as VoIP-heavy environments, live events, stadiums, auditoriums, and enterprise HQ offices. So, and they all support the same quad radio architecture as the previous generations, with dedicated radios for 2.4, 5 gigahertz, dedicated radio for RF analytics and 24/7 wireless security, and of course, Bluetooth low energy onto it. So from the client's perspective, you must have noticed that Apple mobile phones and the newer Samsung mobile phones support Wi-Fi 6. The latest one in the edition is the 2020 iPad Pro, and you'll see more clients supporting Wi-Fi 6 in the near future. So it's a best option for some of you who would want to consider Wi-Fi 6 access points as the next upgrade. And one more interesting aspect of Wi-Fi 6 certification is WPA3 security. So if you are interested in trying WPA3 security on the Wi-Fi 6 APs, you can call our support teams and ask them to enable it. So uh, from wireless, so as George mentioned that most of us are working from home, and we discussed some work from home solutions earlier. So just want to recap on the architecture which can be used for work from home scenarios. So this is not something new, but it has been there for so many years. So if you have an MX at your HQ, you can open an encrypted tunnel from the specific SSID to the MX appliance in HQ location. So what this will do is it allows you to configure a secure, reliable connection at home through the MR access points. So some of the things that it also allows you is to access corporate applications, corporate resources, separate personal and work-related SSIDs. So you don't have to worry about your family members watching Netflix while you're working. So uh, it can create separate SSIDs for personal and work as well. So all in all, it actually can provide you a complete in-office kind of a login experience, so that uh, your motives are set and you can actually use the resources at your corporate level. So if we look at the models for work from home solutions, the MR33 is a good entry point model for general purpose coverage and capacity. And if you're looking for a future-proof Wi-Fi 6 option, MR36 can be considered. And of course, we have MR42, which is a great option as it has a 3x3 MIMO. And all the models support wireless health, which can help IT monitor wireless issues in a work from home scenario. So a great amount of flexibility without compromising on visibility aspects. And for security, the MR access points can also be integrated with Umbrella Security, which is now orderable as a single SKU advanced license from the MR perspective. So moving on to our next update, and this is very exciting that we have released over the last quarter, is taking wireless health to the next level. So those of you who are not familiar with wireless health, this feature allows you to quickly and proactively determine issues on the wireless network. So we have taken this capability and extended it to our entire Meraki stack. So if you have the Meraki full stack as switches and MX appliances, and if you now see the client page, it will provide an end-to-end view from the client all the way towards the application. And the reason we did this because our research say that 63% of the users blame wireless network for their problems, while the issue could be somewhere else. So in the end-to-end view, we can provide more intricate details, such as it's not a wireless issue, but a problem with the upstream switch, which may be misconfigured, or there may be an uplink error. So this will provide great way to simplify end-to-end troubleshooting and not put the entire blame on wireless only. And when we're talking about Wi-Fi 6 as the next game changer with Wi-Fi 6 certified access points, we have a great podcast which is Meraki Unbox. It's a fun way of doing things. It's pretty much fun that we do it in the Meraki Unbox podcast, and where we have our team of experts, and they will explain in detail some of the topics such as Wi-Fi certified 6, work from home solutions from Meraki, Meraki Health Beyond Wireless, and they will also provide some sneak peek on the roadmap. So please go ahead and have a look at the episode 22 of Meraki Unbox podcast for a great learning experience. And from wireless, moving to switching. So on the switching side, I would want to highlight the webinar on switching, which was of great success. Most importantly, it was very technical and focused on troubleshooting and some of the assurance features that are there in our switching platforms. Uh, as you know, in current situations, the need of the hour is to have more visibility into how our networks are functioning. So this would be a great help to the IT team. So please feel free to log in and check out the webinar. It's on demand, so you can watch it at your own convenience. And coming to from on the switches platform. So when we discussed Wi-Fi 6 APs and the large throughput they support, we have recently announced MS390 to meet the high density demand from the networks. So it supports full 48 multi-gig switch ports with modular 4 or 8 into 10G uplinks or 2 into 40G uplinks. So it supports advanced features such as adaptive policy, which enables IT team to segment user traffic on the network, and also provides granular assurance features from the Meraki dashboard to simplify troubleshooting. So whether it's a school or a healthcare or an enterprise organization where you see large amount of data going through your networks, you may want to see and check out MS390 switch. So that's about it. And for let's talk about Meraki community, and I'm going to hand it over to George once again. So while we are doing it, please feel free to post your questions while they can be answered.
All right, thanks for that update, Parag. Hopefully everyone can see my screen again. So, just in the few minutes that we have remaining, I want to talk about some of the sort of initiatives that are not necessarily directly related to the products themselves, but some of the things that we're pushing forward as promotions and also engagement opportunities for you as customers and partners to work with the Meraki teams more directly. So one contest that we're announcing is the Community Points Contest. So if you're not already on the Meraki community, you really should be. It's the best place to go to actually understand what real people are asking and have a forum to get your questions answered, and also just view some of what's going on in the ecosystem outside of just what Meraki can tell you. We do have some with this contest, we do have some opportunity to win some prizes as well. So if you are a strong contributor to the Meraki community, you have the opportunity to win things like socks and other Meraki swag, but also some Meraki products such as cameras and the like. One other thing that we are announcing is our projects gallery. So if you've done something cool and you have a project that you're working on and you want to share it, please contribute. You can contribute those on the community at cs.co/Meraki projects. Our product team looks at this and it actually gives us a lot of feedback on where challenges were encountered and what might need to be built to make these projects more successful. So if you're interested in sharing and seeing other projects that people are working on, check out the projects gallery. A couple of announcements. We do have a on-demand webinar for remote work. So Parag and I both spoke a little bit about this whole initiative for remote working. We do have a on-demand webinar that is specifically around those solutions. So take 45 minutes, learn more about this BCP kind of initiative that the whole industry is taking on right now to figure out how to either build the best solution for your customer, or if you are a customer, to build a solution for your IT team and your rest of your employees to work remotely. Just want to remind everyone that through the end of Cisco's fiscal, we do have first year on us. And so that's essentially if you buy a 3-year license with Meraki, you'll get an additional year at no cost. It's automatically applied, so you don't have to, go in and fill out an application or anything like that. But for any, even if you're an existing customer deploying a new product, you'll get an additional free year of licensing on that. Or if you're a new customer, your entire deployment could potentially get a full, well, actually will get a full free year essentially on top of the license. So first year on us is active up until the end of July. Just briefly, we do have a business resiliency program right now, in light of the current situation. So, from a financing perspective, we are working really hard to help you defer costs. So, working in conjunction with some of our, with Cisco Capital and others, we're figuring out how to make it so that you can still deploy technology without absorbing the cost immediately until things kind of get back up and running. So you'll see kind of the program availability here across Australia, New Zealand, India, Korea, Singapore, Thailand, and GC. The goal is to hopefully make it available to everyone by everyone across the entire region, across all of APJC. But this is something that is kind of, it has a time clock ticking on it, so it'll only be available until the end of Cisco's fiscal. So I know we're almost exactly at time. In fact, I think 1 minute over time. So I know I want to just give a huge shout out and thank you to our marketing team as well as our panelists who have been answering questions. Hopefully everyone has gotten an answer to their question. We will be releasing this recording to everyone as well, so that if your colleagues want to watch it later who were not able to attend live, they'll be able to see that. But thank you again to everyone for participating today. Hopefully that gives you a good kind of, sets the stage on where we're at right now and gives you a good baseline of what Meraki's been up to over the past few months. And thanks to Parag as my co-presenter here. And I hope everyone has a fantastic day and a fantastic rest of their week and stays safe, healthy, and mentally well balanced as well. So thanks very much, everyone, for attending.